A guy who doesn't feel any pain at all ends up in the most brutal prison in Hong Kong. We will learn what happens next from the recap of the film Ricky-O, the story of Ricky. A police bus arrives at the grounds of a closed and well-guarded prison. It's parked around the main entrance. Prisoners are taken off it and their handcuffs are removed. The prisoners enter the building and line up. There is a handsome young man among them named Ricky. He is sentenced to 10 years in prison for a particularly grave crime. He is searched and we see that the guy has a very strong and muscular body. No wonder, he is a real fighter. A sensor goes off and the guards decide that Ricky has a weapon. It's not true, he's just got several bullets in his chest. We learn that this is the most heavily guarded prison in Hong Kong. No one has ever escaped from here. In the morning, the prisoners brush their teeth and we can see that there is a local elite group called the Gang of Four. Moreover, more brazen prisoners bully the others. For instance, a cooler prisoner breaks down a wooden train that another prisoner nicknamed Old Ma made for his child. Then he does the same to the nose of the poor thing. Guards arrive, and the brazen prisoner claims that Ma just tripped and fell. But payback time comes immediately. Someone trips the brazen inmate and he falls right into a sharp piece of the broken toy. It was Ricky. They want to punish the guy, but having seen his crazed eyes, everyone immediately gets out. In the afternoon, the prisoners play basketball. The brazen prisoner is served breakfast. It's very uncomfortable for him to eat and drink because of the bandage. The man decides to send his mate nicknamed Mad Dragon to take on Ricky in a fight. The prisoner learns from a local guard that tomorrow he is supposed to be released from solitary confinement. We can see that Mad Dragon is a very fat and bold man with a crazed face. The old man, Ma, is denied parole. The man is very upset because he was dreaming of returning home to his family. In the evening, one of the guards goes on a routine patrol and notices old Ma. The poor guy used a rope to end his suffering. Having been stunned by such a scene, the guard falls down the stairs. The prisoners discuss this horrible event, and only Ricky stands in his solitary cell, looking at the storm through the small window. Suddenly, he shows up right in front of the guard carrying Old Ma's body. He breaks the man's handcuffs and puts the wooden train on his stomach. Ricky screams and beats up his imaginary enemies. A group of prisoners is led into a bathroom where they can wash their clothes, shower and go to the toilet. Ricky takes a shower and that very brazen prisoner walks up to him. At this moment, Mad Dragon appears behind his back. One blow sends Ricky flying into the wall. The lad gets up and delivers a powerful punch to the fat man's stomach. Mad Dragon falls down and then Ricky is attacked by the brazen prisoner. But Ricky copes with him pretty fast and effortlessly too. A man with multiple tattoos enters the bathroom. It's Oscar. He is a member of the Gang of Four and he intends to punish Ricky for his impertinence. Ricky is locked up in the solitary cell and the man's chest hurts really bad. However, in spite of everything, he is even trying to do meditation. The lad recalls his past. One day he met a man at a cemetery. The man introduced himself as Uncle Ghost. Ricky showed him his martial arts skills. However, his uncle turned out to be a lot stronger. One blow sent him falling to the ground. Ricky asked Uncle Ghost to teach him everything he knew. The man immediately began the first training session, explaining that the essence of martial arts is not only to fight, but also to turn one's body into a sort of a shield. Uncle Ghost made Ricky break and fend off gravestones thrown at him. The man taught his nephew how to withstand any pain, even the strongest of pain. Getting back to our time, Ricky is sent to the assistant warden. One of this man's hands is made of metal and it's got 2 hooks. He used it as a fork. The assistant warden is reading Ricky's file. The man shows Ricky the letter he got delivered this morning. Ricky wants to look at the photo from the letter and the assistant warden strikes him several times. Ricky endures the pain stoically and doesn't utter a word. He only looks at the young woman's photo from the letter. It's his ex-girlfriend Ying. Ricky crushes the tables, tackling the guards and walks up to the assistant warden. He swings, but then stops his fist right in front of his opponent's face. Ricky takes the photo of the young woman and walks away. In his cell, he looks at the young woman's photo for a long time, and then hides the photo in his bed. Ricky recalls his past again. Ricky and Ying were very happy together. One day, they were flying a small remote-controlled airplane in the sky. This is when the guy confessed his love for the first time. A new day dawns. A group of prisoners decides to bully one of the prisoners. One of them even grabs a saw. The man begs for mercy, and the other prisoners are arguing about what they should do with him. Eventually, they let him live. The assistant warden asks one fighter from the Gang of Four, Oscar, to punish Ricky, and he even gives him a weapon. Oscar and Ricky meet at the stadium and immediately start fighting. We can see that they are both experienced and strong fighters. But there is a problem. Oscar has a knife. The man delivers several blows and releases tear gas. Ricky can't see anything. It's impossible to fight in such conditions, but his cunningness and a sewer save him. Ricky regains vision and the fight goes on. Not for long though. Oscar is defeated and the assistant warden is enraged. He asks for backup. 3 of the strongest fighters from the other prison cells arrive. However, this time Ricky manages to avoid fighting. He finds Alan, Oscar's godson, sitting on the stairs. The man weeps loudly, and Ricky notices that his tongue is missing. Ricky teaches the poor guy how to play different musical instruments. The man smiles for the first time in a long time. He hands Ricky some leaves. 3 fighters from the Gang of Four gather together. They give Alan a knife and demand that he kills Ricky for him to take revenge on Ricky for killing his relative. Alan refuses, and they get rid of him too. The prisoners find what's left of Alan and discuss this horrifying accident. Ricky shows up and he understands that he must punish those guilty for this crime. The assistant warden is enraged again. Seems like there is something mysterious about these leaves. A fire breaks out in the West Wing. Cells with those very plants whose leaves Oscar had are burning. Turns out it was opium, and it was grown right in the cells. And Ricky destroyed it. One of the 3 strongest fighters attacks Ricky and delivers him a powerful blow. All the prisoners gather to watch the fight. Ricky recalls his uncle's lessons and gets up. One more opponent joins the fight, and then one more comes. Ricky gets injured multiple times. At this moment, the alarm goes off. It orders the prisoners to return to their cells. Violators get executed by shooting. Everyone obeys the order. The cell with Ricky and one more prisoner is filled with liquid cement. Ricky gets rid of his enemy, knocks out the door and drags the man to the 2nd floor. The liquid cement dries and Ricky literally turns into a statue. On the next day, the prison warden returns. Everyone expects his arrival in fear and anxiety. They even fall asleep out of anxiety. The warden turns out to be an ordinary man wearing a business suit, glasses and a hat. Along with him comes his son, a fat lad, wearing a funny suit who always harms others and cries. We learn that the warden is the owner of a large corporation that uses prisoners as cheap labor. The man learns that all the opium was destroyed and almost suffers a heart attack. The warden comes to cemented Ricky, however he manages to free himself from the cement coating. Using his strength and muscles, he grabs the warden, however one of the 3 strongest fighters nicknamed Taizan immediately attacks him. At first, Ricky is losing to this opponent, but then he quickly seizes initiative and copes with his enemy. After that, the ceiling of Ricky's cell is descending over him. The man tries to hold it with his bare hands, and he manages to do it. Then the warden zaps him with a taser, and Ricky falls to the ground. But he doesn't turn to minced meat, because Taizan rescues him. Turns out the man is still alive. Seizing the opportunity, Ricky gets out of the cell. However, he ends up in another of the warden's traps. On the next day, the prisoners gather around tied Ricky, who sits in a large pit. The warden pronounces him guilty of all the problems in the prison and demands that every prisoner throws a shovelful of sand at him. Disobedience is punishable by shooting. The prisoners do it, and soon the hero is buried in the sand to his neck. And then the sand goes higher and higher. The prisoners are worried about Ricky's fate. Will he survive? At night, the fighters from the Gang of Four block a small tube feeding oxygen to Ricky. He recalls his lover again. One day, Ying witnessed the crime and got kidnapped by a local gang. The young woman tried to escape, but she fell off the roof. Ricky was desperate and promised to take revenge for his lover. He found a gang that kidnapped Ying and took out the gang leader. Getting back to our time, a bulldozer arrives and digs out the tied Ricky. At first, the young man doesn't seem to have any signs of life. However, it's not true. He is alive. Ricky frees himself. However, 2 remaining fighters from the Gang of Four attack him. They decide to execute the lad right in the warden's office. He is tortured and tormented. Yet, Ricky heroically endures all of the trials. At night, one of the prisoners sneaks into his cell. He brings him some food. The lad eats like a dog because he is still chained. A new day dawns. The prisoner who brought Ricky food gets punished. Enraged Ricky gets out of the cell. Having seen this, the other inmates take matters into their own hands in relation to the assistant warden. Guards rush in with large batons and shields and fight them off. Besides, Ricky helps them. Meanwhile, the warden studies the prison menu and reduces the prisoners' portion sizes. Enraged Ricky shows up and the warden immediately grabs a weapon. Additionally, the 2 remaining fighters from the Gang of Four join him. Once again, we see a brutal fight and incredible martial arts moves. Of course, Ricky defeats everyone. Only the warden remains. He isn't as ordinary as he seems. He turns into a large monster, resembling either a troll or an orc. He is a really powerful opponent. However, Ricky isn't a pushover himself. He lifts the warden off the ground and throws him into a mincer. Seems like the prisoners will finally have meat for lunch. Meanwhile, a riot breaks out in the prison and Ricky breaches a large concrete wall. The path to freedom is open.